It's Mock Draft Monday, and we have a 3-round mock for you guys today, starting in the trenches with the top interior line options and finding some playmakers on day 2.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, it's double delight. We got 2 3-round mock drafts. For me, I went all offense because Jesse Minter had the #1 defense in the NFL last year, so I'm trying to give all the help to Greg Roman, while Mr. Daniel over there found a way to find a defensive lineman in his mock draft as well.
Yeah, and we both started in the trenches, and that's kind of how we wanted to do it. If the Chargers go offensive line in round 1, how do they address those bigger needs, and how do they target day 2? But today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show. David, it's our first true, genuine mock draft Monday of the season, and we're doing a 3-round mock focusing on the Chargers' top picks and also focusing on where they can go if they go offensive line in round 1. And we'll talk about a couple of guys that probably deserve to go somewhere around the 22nd pick. Some really talented players, and then trying to figure out, okay, where do we go on day 2 after that? But let's start in round 1, David. We have 2 totally separate mocks. We have 6 new prospects we're breaking down today. Pick 22, round 1. Who did you go with?
With the 22nd pick, I went with Mr. Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama, who is an absolute monster, like just a mountain of a man. 6'4", 321 pounds, 34.5-inch arms, or 34 7/8 if you take his pro day number. Either way, those are some gigantic limbs to be able to work with as an offensive guard, and 11-inch hands. So, as far as a makeup perspective, he has everything you want from an offensive lineman. Tyler Booker was an accomplished track athlete as well, according to the Beast, through childhood, medaling in shot put, discus, and javelin. So this is a guy who is a multi-sport athlete and, really, really excelled doing multiple things. And also first-team All-American, first-team All-SEC, and a team captain. So this is a guy who is a leader. And then on the field, in high school, he played both right tackle and left tackle. And there's no surprise, obviously, with his gigantic arms, but he got moved into guard. And when you got moved into guard, that length was definitely used to his benefit. He was really able to keep defenders away from his body. He was able to provide combo blocks. I thought that he identified and handled stunts and twists exceptionally well. He possesses unbelievable power. He can really affect defenders even with one hand. I saw a couple of instances where he was able to just get a hand on a guy and was able to knock that defender at least out of the way. And you definitely do not want to be on the tracks when the Booker train is coming through, because he has blown up some defenders and made them look really, really bad. This guy is a plug-and-play starter at left guard immediately on day 1.
Yeah, when I watched him, I thought he would be a huge upgrade for the Chargers at left guard, specifically because of their system. This isn't a guy that's going to work in every offense, but I think the nice thing about what the Chargers have going in their gap power type of scheme is that it will mitigate a lot of the kind of detractors of Tyler Booker's game. But one of the things I loved was Dan Brugler had a quote from him. He said he describes his play style as legal assault, and Booker said, "I make guys not love football anymore." That sounds like
I love it.
A Jim Harbaugh guy. But I mean, when I watched him, nasty attitude, a pile mover, a hole opener, however you want to say it, he does all those things. Super wide base, hard to get around just because physically he's a house. Very easy to see why this regime specifically would like him. Show good awareness, like you talked about. Really good upper body strength and the torque needed to kind of turn defenders out of the hole and open up those holes. And if you get unbalanced against him, you will end up in the dirt. So he does have that nasty streak as well. Really, the only con to Tyler Booker is the athleticism to me. I mean, lateral agility, maybe quicker defensive tackles will have problems with. Physically, he's all there. The only other thing, committed 7 penalties, according to Dan Brugler in 2024, 3 false starts. But pretty clean prospect. I'm not as concerned about the lack of athleticism with what the Chargers are doing.
I agree, Daniel. I think, speed can sometimes get to him. I think that was few and far between. And again, I'm really nitpicking as far as trying to find some flaws in his game. And of course, I'm not an expert on evaluating offensive linemen. I just kind of see what I see. And from what I've seen and, evaluating prospects over the last 6 or 7 years, at least, I can tell that this guy is someone who is going to bring that physicality and that intent to your football team. And that is what Jim Harbaugh is trying to do when he's overhauling the way that this football team plays football. You got to bring in players like Tyler Booker to be able to have that vision come and be a reality.
Yeah, he's definitely a culture fit per the reports too. No red flags off the field. Seems like a team player, team captain, all of those things. I mean, it would make sense, for the Chargers. I think especially because the projection is a lot easier for a dude who's a natural left guard. And we've seen him play a ton of snaps at the position. He would be playing for the Chargers for the foreseeable future if they took him. I went with the other interior offensive lineman that could be available to the Chargers at 22, and that is Gray Zabel, the guy who's been a huge offseason all-star. They tackle at North Dakota State, FCS program, obviously. 6'5.5", 312 pounds, very tall, big center, but with his short arms at 32 inches, I mean, it makes sense for him to move under the interior. As far as why this has potential to, solidify your chances of improving all 3 of your interior offensive line spots, because even though this dude might be a long-term center, right now you could use him at guard if you see that he could play there. And then after, Zion Johnson's contract runs out on the end of the year, you potentially have your center of the future as well. Something we have both been clamoring for a long time. I mean, this is also a guy that has a mean streak that that the Chargers would like. Definitely a better athlete. Definitely might be a better fit for more of a zone scheme where you can maybe play to his strengths a little bit more, because he is so good at hitting targets at the second level. He is so good at combo blocks and getting to the linebackers and things and guys he needs to hit. Pass protection, the hard thing is he's playing tackle, right? And the clips, played 4 games total at guard in college. The rest of them were spent at left tackle and right tackle. So hard to know how he's going to, go up against someone like a Chris Jones. But as far as his pass protection at tackle, super fundamentally sound. Like just really, really clean mover, really good footwork, someone that has a pretty good anchor but will give up some ground. So that's one of the concerns I have if he's playing center. But a super clean prospect, good hands, good feet. Once he grabs you, it's really, really hard to get off. He will sustain the block, and just a really good athlete as well. So I think there's a lot to like, but it is a little harder to make that projection when you're talking about someone not just that played at the FCS level, but also played at a different position.
I think just one of the things that just pops up in my mind is just Damian Parson just saying, when they were at the Senior Bowl and he was playing center, he didn't lose any reps. Like he was just absolutely dominant when he was there. And so I think, trusting a guy like Damian who watches this film day in and day out all year long and getting that type of ringing endorsement for having never played that position, I think bodes well for projecting him to play inside.
Yeah, and leverage is going to be a big thing once he's on the interior, right? And the thing is even at the Senior Bowl, he held up really well. He was very consistent, but he did give up ground. It's easier to give up ground as a tackle than it is as a center when you're getting blown up into your quarterback's lap. And I'm not saying that he would, but I'm saying it's hard to project that, and that will be what kind of determines his success in the NFL is, can you hold up at center against those defensive tackles? Can you keep that 6'5" frame down
just
and have the leverage needed? You can tell by the awareness, all of those things. There's a lot of reasons why people think he will be a great center, and the reason why he's Dane Brugler's number 1 center and most people's number 1 center in this class. It's for good reason. Now, he played at NDSU. It is hard to make those projections. It doesn't always work out. I was sold on Dylan Radins a few years ago, right? And that hasn't worked out for him so far in the league. You never know with those kind of projections, but I understand the hype. If the Chargers went that way, I would get it. I think out of the 2 of those guys, though, for the Chargers, I liked Tyler Booker better. But now we've addressed the offensive line, which is what we have to know the Chargers will do, even if we pick a bunch of weapons for them at 22. Now, how do we go after that? I mean, where do we go after that? How do you address those other needs on day 2? Can you still get those playmakers on offense? Can you still get the pass catchers Justin Herbert needs? We're talking about all that and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles like EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6/6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother and responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes as well from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. I love my Xbox. There's no real portable way to do it. I mean, it's not really conducive to traveling. This is something, you have a controller, you have your Amazon Fire 4K TV stick, you're good to go. When you're on the road, I love that, especially because Xbox Game Pass Ultimate has so many different games on it. To be able to play all of those with an Amazon Fire TV stick is awesome. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K, 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, David, well, we got into our first round of the mock. We went with the offensive line, and that leaves us in a spot now to where do you go after that? So I know that you went offensive line. We know you're going all offense today. Which position did you choose to attack with your second pick?
Well, I was trying to look for, what position I think would have the value that I was looking for, and, a player that I feel like might be there when the Chargers, make their selection at 55. So the player I landed on was Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State. He is 5'11", 221 pounds. And this is kind of like, projecting into the future, right? Najee Harris only is here on a 1-year deal. And so there's absolutely no guarantee that he's going to be here past this year. And, I obviously when I was watching them, they have some similar characteristics about how they play, but they are not the same player. Okay. Over 1,000 yards in every season in college for Quinshon Judkins, who started at Ole Miss and transferred to Ohio State. He is quick. He has quick and explosive footwork. He has fantastic contact balance. He can bounce off of hits and pick up extra yardage, and he does that. He did that repeatedly through several games that I watched on tape. Also, he's a very physical runner and finishes off all of his runs. He does not quit. He is a whistle-to-whistle type of player for sure. 17 carries of 15-plus yards. He's definitely more quick than fast, I would say. Very reliable hands. Didn't really get utilized a lot in the passing game, but he was only credited with 1 drop last season. And really, really good ball security. Only 2 fumbles in his entire college football career, and that spans over 700 rushing snaps. So this is a guy who, you get the ball in his hands, he's going to be able to make something happen, and he is not going to cough the football up.
Yeah, which that Jim Harbaugh cares about all those things. I think Jim Harbaugh also is going to love the durability because him and Najee Harris have that in common. Didn't miss a game over the last 3 seasons. That sounds a little bit familiar. But yeah, I liked what I saw from him. It definitely seems like he would fit what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman in this offense want to do from a physicality standpoint. He is a finisher. He knows when to get what he can get. And I thought he also does a pretty good job navigating his way through traffic. Like, he can work in a phone booth. He has really good feet and quick feet.
Yeah, good vision too.
Very good vision as well. And when he finds that hole, he has pretty good burst through it. And he also just knows, hey, when I need to grind it out, I need to grind it out. And I also thought when he does get on the edge, he's a hard dude for defensive backs to tackle for the most part. And a lot of that's angular, not a super shake and bake guy, not a ton of elusiveness there, but his speed combined with his ability to just, take the right angles to make it hard to tackle for how physical he is. I thought we're all kind of key, pros for sure to his game. Yeah. Now, the cons, not going to be the home run threat when you're talking about the smash and dash, the thunder and lightning, the perfect complement to what the Chargers have right now in Najee Harris. He's not going to bring a lot of that, right? Didn't see many pass pro reps, but not a guy you're going to trust a ton in pass protection because the ones I saw were shaky. And per Dane Brugler, 799 touches in college, 500 plus more in high school. So a little bit of tread on the tire there. So I think my biggest thing as far as cons is like he feels like he could be a solid running back, and I just didn't see as much to be like, oh, this dude, he's going to go in the second round, but he's going to be special.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And honestly, like, when you're watching his tape, obviously you can't help but notice his running mate, Travion Henderson, who
which
is
is
probably
a little rich for 55.
step above, before, he's going to go. So, I that would be a perfect compliment, or more perfect compliment than he is. But again, Najee's only on a 1-year deal. But as far as the cons, limited pass catching productivity, he could do it, but he just wasn't, really utilizing that. And then as far as the pass protection, I also had that as a con because he goes more for the strike instead of like locking in and grabbing and getting on the inside and trying to direct. Like he just doesn't really do that. He goes to try to strike them to get them away. And that's an ineffective way to protect the passer because somebody could just take that hit, roll right off and go right around you. And that did happen. And so you just got to change that technique going into the next level when you're going up against the fastest, biggest, strongest athletes in the world. That's just something that you just can't do. And not a home run threat. He just doesn't have that extra gear. I did see him break away and break like a 60-yard run, but he wasn't able to finish it in the end zone. And that's just one of those things like, you get it close, but you got to get it all the way there. You got to get it to the house.
Yeah, for sure. He's not a home run hitter. I mean, it doesn't mean he can't get you some chunk plays. Doesn't mean he's not a good back. Just different. And I think obviously when you're next to, Travion Henderson, it's going to always look like you're not a home run threat for most people. But for me, going trenches in round 1, I decided for my first mock draft to double down on the trenches because I like this defensive tackle class, and I definitely want to see the Chargers get someone in the middle that could potentially be a game changer for them. And I think the guy that I thought most fit that bill was Darius Alexander, the defensive tackle from Toledo with pick 55. Why do it? It gives you a chance at a potential dude in the middle. I mean, you're looking for some pass rush productivity to replace guys. Your 2 top interior rushers last year are gone, Morgan Fox and Poona Ford. This gives you a chance to kind of eat into that a little bit because I do think he's a guy that can play early on. And I think as far as the pros go, you watch certain games, it's very easy to see how this dude could be a game wrecker. I mean, you watch the Miami of Ohio game. I mean, he totally just flipped that game on his head. Sells out against double teams and holds up most of the time. Great effort to keep fighting even when he stalemates. Showed the athleticism that you want from that position, or at least a different level on a 58-yard pick 6, which you're not going to see many defensive tackles have. But I was just really impressed with his ability to get into the backfield, to find, ways to disrupt the play. And even though you're not going to see huge stats from him, which we'll get into, you see a lot of tackles for minimal gain. You see him sticking his nose in places and finding a way to fight off blocks and make plays when he can. And I also just thought it was nice that he won in a lot of different ways. He could beat you with power and push the pocket. He could beat you with a long arm move. He could beat you with the swim move. And he also just had the power to consistently knock back offensive linemen in front of him. So you were trying to find that guy. At a certain point, the chances of getting that guy are going to drop off even in a defensive tackle class. But as a guy who could potentially turn into a 3-down guy and be a difference maker for you, I like Darius Alexander.
Yeah, I mean, Darius Alexander had 22 tackles for loss and 9 sacks. And also 13 passes defense. So that means he was able to
career, you're saying?
Yeah, in his career in college football. So he was able to affect the backfield, be able to get those tackles for loss. And when he wasn't able to get the sacks, he was able to get his hands up and affect. And we know, obviously, with Justin Herbert, Justin, one of the things that is kind of annoying is that he has a lot of his passes get knocked down. And so we know that's something that can disrupt the play. And so it's definitely, an aspect that works in his favor. And also, it's not just offensive linemen that benefit from having length. He also has great length at 34-inch arms. So he has the length to be able to match up with the length. The only thing that's a little bit of a detractor for Darius Alexander is that he is 24 years old at this point. So he is a little bit of an older prospect.
He is a little bit of an older prospect for sure. He's going to turn 25 as a rookie, which at certain positions obviously is more important than others, right? If you're looking for your long-term franchise quarterback, you're probably not going to see much improvement from a guy after he's 25 years old, even at the next level, and should dominate the guys he's going up against, right? I think for me, That's definitely one of the things I have as the cons. Going to be a 25-year-old rookie. The biggest thing to me was just the modest production. He played in a lesser conference. He only had 3.5 sacks last year and 7.5 tackles for loss, which isn't terrible for a defensive tackle, obviously. But for last year and 5.5 tackles for loss, so he's never had that big time production. I think he probably affects the game more than maybe what his production would tell you, at least in the games that I watch. And as far as other things, rush discipline and rush lane integrity could definitely be cleaned up a little bit. You give quarterbacks holes at the next level, they're going to take them and run for good yardage. And his hair on fire kind of style of play can lead him to getting off balance and taking himself out of the play.
Yeah.
But he wasn't totally reckless, though, and I thought he really affected the game on almost every snap when you watched him, and I really appreciated that. If you have a chance, on a kind of high upside guy like that in the second round who could turn into a dude for you, I think it would be hard to pass up on it. But we haven't gotten any pass catchers yet, David, and that was our focus going into round 3. And the good news is the Chargers will have some options at pass catcher, and I think we were both pleasantly surprised by the picks that we took. So we'll get into all those guys and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're taking a look at our draft prospects to pick one guy that stands apart, the guy we believe showcased the strength and power needed to push the Chargers forward as we look ahead to next season. And this week's Armada Clear-Cut Player of the Week is Tyler Booker, and I don't think there's been a prospect that more fits the Nissan Armada than Tyler Booker does, because you talk about heavy duty, you talk about rugged, you're talking about conquers the road with capability and confidence. Talk about a guy who is actually a road paver and truly will clear the road for you to get through. That is Tyler Booker. I don't think I've seen a more Nissan Armada player as we've been doing this. But when it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer. That's exactly what I think Tyler Booker can do here. We talked about his physicality, the true power that he has, and just the no-nonsense ability. And it's clear that our player of the week is out here ready to conquer the road with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of their outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, the Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, guys, well, we still have one more round of this mock draft, and me and David both went into round 3 thinking the same thing. My goodness, we need a pass catcher, and that's how these things are going to shake out when you have the needs that the Chargers have. You're only going to be able to get so many guys in the top 3 rounds, but thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen as we keep diving deeper into this draft and get into more of our mock drafts throughout the year and try to get some more draft experts on the show as well. But thank you, as always, for making us your first listen. Now is more important than ever to make your second listen, the Locked On NFL Draft, which I'm doing every day right now. Damian Parson killed it for us, but Keith Sanchez on there is also great every day on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from as we lead up to this fun draft class we have coming up. But, David, it's time for the third pick here, and I know you're going to talk about someone who's a little bit polarizing with who you ended up going with the Chargers at pick 86, an important pick for us because in the first couple rounds, we don't have a pass catcher yet for Justin Herbert, but you found one, and one that had a pretty ridiculous season last year.
Pretty ridiculous is a absolute understatement. We're
Yeah.
talking about 117 receptions, 1,555 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And of course, I am talking about the tight end, Harold Fannin Jr. And there's no way that I was going to go through a 3-round mock without getting Justin Herbert his next pass catching tight end of the future. And that was definitely a great choice because I really enjoyed watching Harold Fannin Jr. Man, he is explosive. And this is a guy who made the transition to tight end after playing safety in high school. And, only having played tight end for a few years in college, it's pretty special what he was able to produce. And especially in 2024, they funneled pretty much the entire offense through Harold Fannin Jr., whether it was receptions, whether it was, the wide receiver screens, whether it was the handoffs. Like, they gave him the football in a myriad of different ways, and he was able to be productive pretty much all of those ways. Really strong hands through contact. He's very comfortable catching the football with defenders in tight coverage, has legit speed to attack the seam, and he did it repeatedly. And, it's really cool to just see them kind of snap 1, 2, bam, straight to him in the seam and watch him go 10, 15 yards down the football field. He caught a big seam pass against Penn State to start the game, and that was like a 25, 30-yard completion just right off the rip. He also has pretty good wiggle, I would say. His stop and start ability has 34 missed tackles forced, which was at least first in college football for a tight end. Obviously there's a ton of receptions there. So you have to, obviously factor that in. Tied for fourth in contested catches and tied for second in deep catches with 9, and third in deep yards with 333 deep yards. So this guy was the entire offense, and obviously in the conference that he was playing in, the MAC, you want to make sure that you're a man among boys, and that stat line is no other way to put it. He absolutely was a man among boys.
Yeah, he was. I mean, consensus All-American, MAC MVP, led the FBS not for tight ends, but for all players, had more receptions and more receiving yards than any player in college football last year, regardless of position. I mean, that's about as impressive as it gets. And I think definitely when you look at someone like this, you think, okay, well, it's a large part because of the lack of competition they're playing against. That's the nice thing, is in 2024, you got to see this dude go up against real big-time programs, Penn State and Texas A&M, and all he did was dominate them. 11 for 137 yards and a touchdown against Penn State, and against Texas A&M, 8 for 145 and a touchdown. It's crazy because Tyler Warren did have a bigger game, which he probably should, going up against Bowling Green, and I think he had 8 for 146 in that game, so that was just a tight end bowl for the century. Go watch that game if you have time. But to do that against, Penn State, the 8th ranked scoring defense in the NCAA last year, and also Texas A&M, I think was 35th, but nothing to sneeze at defensively. Look at all the players that Texas A&M has going in this draft class. We'll tell you the kind of guys they have over there. So for him to do that at 20 years old, because that's how old he is, super young, ability to get better, I liked him a lot. It's hard not to fall for a dude that has that kind of, production, and it still shows up when you see the tape. But the biggest thing, and the reason we're talking about him with the 86 overall pick right now, which is right around where he should go according to the experts, right around where Dane Brugler has him, right around where he is on the consensus board. He's 6'3", 241 pounds. He also, you'd like to see probably a little bit better testing for a guy who's that small, to have really good speed. He ran a 4.71, which isn't going to blow anyone away. But I thought, besides that, pretty above average testing, but nothing that blew you away. And the big thing for him is just going to be blocking, right? That's just not ever going to be his game. He's never going to be an inline traditional blocker that's going to, seal off defensive ends and be able to blow guys off the line of scrimmage. He can do some of those things in spurts as a move guy. He can do that, but just has to do it more consistently. And I mean, I think when you talk about Daniel Jeremiah and what he had to say about him, I think a lot of people could buy in, because he said it's sacrilegious to say, because he's going into the Hall of Fame, but he's like a mini Antonio Gates with his movements and how he moves around. I think also Delaney Walker was someone who came to mind too, just as a smaller dude, both 6'2", both smaller guys. I mean, he's 6'3", but just smaller guys playing that position. Delaney Walker, a better blocker. But I think Harold Fandon, man, a lot to be excited about with him. The dude is really fun to watch. And I think there's, his ability to kind of create space to be as crafty as he is and to be able to do some of the things he does as a 20-year-old was super impressive. I liked him a lot. I ended up going with that pick 86, needing some juice, trying to find pass catchers for Justin Herbert. I ended up one I really liked with Kyle Williams, who just came off a 70-catch, 1,198-yard, 14 touchdown season, but the important part there, 17.1 yards per catch. I'm not going to get a fully well-rounded receiver that's probably going to be a wide receiver one in the third round, especially at pick 86. It happens. You'll see those guys, right? You see the Amon-Ra St. Browns. You see the Keenan Allens out there, third and fourth round picks. But this dude is to add juice. This is to add some explosiveness to the Chargers offense. And smaller guy, basically lad-sized at 5'11", 190 pounds. But a very different player. He did force 21 missed tackles last year, which is more than Quinton Johnston did in his final season at TCU, which I thought was crazy. But 62.5 contested catch percentage this year, made the plays in tight windows, explosive first step that just eats up cushion quickly, and the acceleration is really what is impressive about this dude. The ability to get to full speed as quickly as he does, and giving a legitimate deep threat to this offense. Is even as a smaller guy, a really good release package. It's hard to play man-to-man against him on the outside because he will burn you. Got 14 deep balls last season, and even at his size, still played 70% of his snaps outside. So looking for a guy to kind of fill that pass catcher role, to find someone who brings something different to this offense. I wouldn't necessarily wait this long to get a pass catcher, but if they ended up with Kyle Williams as the receiver they take, I'd be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why. 20 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And also, this would be a homecoming for Kyle Williams because he is from Inglewood, California. That is his hometown. So to be able to come back to your hometown, to be able to play professional football, we've already seen that, obviously, with Deion Henley. We know how special it is for him, and I'm sure it would be special for Kyle Williams as well.
Yeah, another guy that was in school a long time, too, started out at UNLV and had basically the same career arc as Deion Henley, because Deion Henley was his teammate, but he wasn't his teammate at the school he's coming out of right now at Washington. To say he was a teammate at UNLV several years ago, because he played his first 3 seasons there. But talking about the cons, not a great run blocker. I would say not terrible, but not good, which you would say about a lot of the wide receivers we've scouted so far. Small hands and had 5 drops last season. Still not a crazy drop percentage. Obviously, he had a ton of volume there, so not super worried about that because he also showed the ability to make the contested catches. Yeah. That's the thing with Quinton Johnston coming out, and I hate to, you're not comparing everyone to that, right? But just the red flag there was the almost 12% drop percentage, and also 30-something% contested catch percentage. That's just never what his game was. Right. This guy isn't like that. Even though he is a yak guy, he's a guy that, if he sees a seam, he can take it to the house, and he has that kind of explosiveness, and he has that kind of legit deep speed. But he's also a guy that can make the outside receiver catches as well, which is something the Chargers need. Now, you have a guy this year as an ex-receiver in Mike Williams who can maybe take some of those plays that this guy at his size, 5'11", 190 pounds, isn't going to be able to make. But I think this dude can play outside at the next level. So if you got a legitimate outside threat that you really can't play man coverage against on the outside, to go with Ladd McConkey on the inside, that's adding something to your offense. That's giving you a different dimension. So yeah, when going with a 3rd-round pick here, after going in the trenches, finding a guy I feel good about on the interior of the offensive line and finding a potential dude on the inside, had to get a pass catcher, and I like what Kyle Williams brings to the table. He would add some serious juice to this offense, and I also really liked what Harold Fannin brought to the table, too. I liked really both of those guys. Smaller guys, not your prototypical packages for both these guys, but it's undeniable that these dudes are playmakers, touchdown scorers, and would be, I think competing to make an impact for the Chargers as rookies, which I think if you're getting that as a 3rd-round pick, you're doing something right. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Thank you guys for being here for our first big mock draft of the season. And make sure you never miss the show. Go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, as well as finding us wherever we post the show every day to all of our social media as well. So you can find us on Twitter at Locked On LAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and on our Locked On Chargers Facebook page, which is good to know because tomorrow is Buy or Sell Tuesday on a Tuesday unless some more news drops and pushes it back again. But that means we're getting into our biggest Charger storylines and overreactions, so you can hit us up on all of those places. We'll also put a post out on YouTube so you guys can give us your buy or sell there, or call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924. Give us your 30-second Chargers buy or sell, and there's a good chance we can get it on the show. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. I like how both of our drafts ended up, David. I might not go interior offensive line in the 1st round, but it's good to know even if the Chargers do it, they'll have chances to really plug some big needs after that. And I'm excited to get into more of these guys so we can see kind of what the ideal path is for the Chargers to take. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. Back to you guys tomorrow with Buy or Sell Tuesday. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.